没听过哪3个字？
还真不太清楚。
不知道。
碳交易不知道，
请你科普。
不知道是什么？
不知道。
When I walked down the street asking random Chinese person if they knew what carbon trading was, that was the most common answer I received. 不知道 or I don't know. The concept of carbon trading is still quite unfamiliar to most people. And yet, it's quietly weaving its way into our lives. With efforts from both the government and businesses, carbon trading is gradually becoming more recognized. But how did it go from being a mystery to a critical tool in global climate policy? That's what we'll find out in this program. Hello, I'm Yishun. Welcome to the first episode of our 3-part series on carbon trading. I'll talk about what it is and how it has moved from being an unfamiliar concept to being a key player in our transition toward a low-carbon future. In the following 2 episodes, we will explore how carbon trading is driving change and the hurdles that come with implementing this market system. But first, let's take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture. The world is facing climate change at an unprecedented scale. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change emphasizes that mitigating greenhouse gas emissions is one of the key solutions to addressing this issue. Countries around the globe are scrambling for ways to reduce emissions. A cost-effective approach is carbon emission trading, an innovative market mechanism designed to put a price on carbon emissions and create incentives to reduce them. China has been working on developing its own carbon market as part of its effort to achieve peak carbon emissions by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060, also known as the Dual Carbon Strategic Goals. Now, let's break down what carbon trading actually is. Imagine you are a kid playing the Trade Your Toys game. You have some toys you don't need, and your friend has a toy you really want. So, you both agree to swap. Voila! Everyone gets what they want. Simple, right? Well, carbon trading works in a similar way. Instead of toys, though, we're trading carbon emissions rights. Government agencies assess the maximum pollutants allowed in a region based on local enterprises' production output, emissions, and the pollution capacity that the region can sustain, and divide it into emission quotas, each representing a pollution discharge right. Think of companies like those kids trading toys. Companies that can reduce emissions below their quota have surplus credits, while high-emission companies buy extra allowances to stay compliant. This creates carbon markets, a structured system aimed at promoting emission reduction and resource optimization, encouraging companies to innovate and lower their carbon footprints. But what brought this market idea to life? To find out, we traveled to Wuhan, the heart of one of the nation's pilot carbon markets in central China's Hubei province. Here in Wuhan, we met Zhang Gao, Chief Executive Manager of China Carbon Emissions Registration and Clearing, or CRC. He shared his insights on the origin of the carbon market mechanism and the similarities and differences between China's carbon market and other international carbon markets.
碳交易机制呢，它起源于1997年的京都议定
The carbon trading mechanism originated from the 1997 Kyoto Protocol and is a market-based system designed to promote emission reductions. China's carbon market is a market-based policy tool established under the country's dual carbon strategic goals. It operates as a unified national market system. In contrast, many international carbon markets, except for the EU emissions trading system, are often regional or resource-based markets rather than a nationwide unified system. The EU carbon market has been developing for many years and is highly financialized, whereas China's market is still in its early pilot phase and is continuously improving and refining its structure and functions.
At first, many companies were skeptical about carbon trading. Some saw it as just another regulation, a new box to check off. Others worried about the cost. But then, something interesting happened. Companies started realizing that reducing emissions wasn't just a legal requirement. It was an opportunity. Shu Liangsuo, head of the carbon trading department of Hubei Carbon Emission Exchange, explained the reasons behind this shift.
我们试点摊市场刚开市的时候，就是因为它是一个新生事物嘛，很多企业它并不是很了解，也没把这个当回事儿。
When the market was first launched, it was a completely new concept. Many companies didn't fully understand it or take it seriously, so they didn't prioritize carbon reduction efforts. As a result, some companies with high emissions quickly found themselves facing a shortfall of millions of carbon allowances. To comply with regulations, they had to spend millions in real financial costs to purchase additional allowances.
然后呢，这对他们也是个促进作用，他们 在这个刺激下，就是
The financial pressure became a driving force for change. Realizing the impact on their bottom line, companies started to strengthen their management, set up dedicated carbon management teams, and invest more in low-carbon technologies. Over time, they have significantly improved their carbon reduction strategies. If their industry can integrate into the national carbon market eventually, these companies will undoubtedly have a first-mover advantage.
Huaxing Cement, a cement manufacturing company, is one of them. The company's production director Xu Gang told me that they initially saw carbon trading as a burden, but ended up transforming its entire business strategy around it.
从最开始的这个水泥厂是一个劳动密集型的也是。
Our plant was labor-intensive and relied heavily on manual operations with low level of automation. However, as it develops, we have built our production line according to the most advanced manufacturing standards.
Now, they're not just reducing emissions, they're selling their unused carbon emission allowance for profit. What started as a cost-saving strategy turned into a competitive advantage. That is evidence of growing awareness. Businesses across industries are increasingly recognizing the importance of carbon management, making sustainability a key part of their corporate strategies. And it's not just the major players. Small businesses and even individuals are becoming more conscious of their carbon footprint through initiatives like carbon inclusion, or 碳普惠. Now, let's talk about how you, yes, you, can take part in carbon trading without running a factory or managing a corporate sustainability team. The answer: carbon inclusion programs. These programs work like a giant web, capturing carbon-reducing actions of citizens in daily life, making it easy for ordinary people to participate in carbon trading. How often do you walk instead of driving? How much electricity can you save at home? How many times can you bring your own coffee cup instead of using a disposable one? Every small action earns you carbon credits, which can be redeemed for discounts, rewards, or even, wait for it, real money. In Wuhan, we met Liu Shu, founder of Wuhan Low Carbon Universe, a carbon inclusion mini program where people can accumulate carbon credits and exchange them for prizes, making carbon reduction a fun and rewarding experience for individuals. He explained the ideas behind creating this mini program.
碳普惠是参加的一个补充机制， 因为碳交易它主要的目的是要让那些高排放的企业为自己的排放买单嘛。
Carbon inclusion is a complementary mechanism to carbon trading. Carbon trading mainly aims to make high-emission enterprises pay for their emissions. But I believe that emission reduction also requires the participation of individuals and small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. So we thought about building a new platform to bring in both individuals and SMEs. That's why we decided to use a mini program as a way to engage the public.
去服务这些个人的双碳的一些工作。
Wuhan Low Carbon Universe, or 五碳江湖 in Chinese, is a name composed of 五, tan or carbon in English, and jianghu or the world. The 五 in the word Wuhan sounds like 无, meaning none in Chinese, creating a wordplay that reflects their vision of a world with zero carbon emissions. And it's working! People who originally signed up just for fun are now actively seeking ways to reduce their carbon footprint. For example, Wei Ying, one of the first users of this mini program, has been experiencing changes in her daily habits because of it.
我现在已经积攒了大概有个十百千万10万，有大概将近13万的这个。
I have now accumulated close to 126,000 grams of reduced emissions. That's about 126 kilograms, right? Every day, I try to follow low-carbon principles in all aspects of my life: clothing, food, housing, and transportation. These good habits allow me to earn low-carbon points daily, which keeps me motivated to continue doing this.
When individuals, businesses, and governments align toward a common goal, the impact is undeniable. But it's not just about behavior change, it's also about education. To ensure a sustainable future, we need the next generation to be well-versed in a carbon economy. That's why universities across China are stepping up, introducing carbon trading and low-carbon economy programs to their curriculums. At Hubei University of Economics, a school of low-carbon economics was established in 2018. Fang Jie, principal of the university, explained why this matters.
首先，我们从学者的专业的敏锐度，感觉在低碳领域，我们其实是有很多的问题要研究的。
First of all, from the academic perspective, we recognize that there are many issues in the low-carbon field that require further research. The findings from these studies ultimately tie into talent development in universities. We see this as a crucial avenue for applying and showcasing research outcomes.
同时的话呢，外部力量来看，我刚才也讲到了中国的碳市场的试点。
At the same time, from an external perspective, China launched its pilot carbon market quite early. There has been considerable attention and support for this initiative, both in terms of policy frameworks and market practices.
And the students, they are seeing the potential. Not only for climate action, but also for their career opportunities. A freshman at Hubei University of Economics, Qing Chang, shared her view.
之前一直觉得绿色经济就是比较一种简单的经济，但是我们之前举行
I used to think that green economy was just a simple form of economy. Now I've learned that through green economy, companies will undergo transformations, which then drive technological innovation. The innovation, in turn, promotes economic development, creating a positive cycle between the two. This is quite meaningful.
Education is key to driving awarenesses, and awareness leads to action. What started as a niche concept is now shaping business strategies, government policies, and even personal habits. From street interviews filled with puzzled looks to businesses, governments, and individuals embracing carbon trading, we've come a long way. But this is just the beginning. In the next episode, we will find out how carbon trading is no longer just a concept, but a powerful force that is driving real changes. How are companies slashing emissions, What innovations are emerging from this growing market? And how is carbon trading actually influencing global climate goals? Stay tuned for part 2 of this program, The Power of Action in China's Carbon Market. Until then, keep thinking green and remember, every action counts.